Welcome to Everything Cancer. This show is designed for survivors and those who love them, and to offer providers fresh perspectives and insight. Our spectrum of guests are inspiring survivors who share their journey, challenges, and how they thrive. Providers who give us insight into strategies for treatment, symptom management, and thriving through all stages of the cancer journey. Cancer care team members will give us behind-the-scenes insight into cancer care, because if you understand it better, you can be a more effective self-advocate. Leaders from cancer support organizations will share their stories and the resources their organizations provide. We'll talk about rekindling intimacy when cancer has changed your world, and we'll break down effective self-advocacy strategies into easy-to-follow steps. We'll talk about everything cancer. Thank you for listening to the Everything Cancer podcast. We greatly appreciate you being part of the Everything Cancer community. The information on this podcast is not intended to be used for medical advice. For any healthcare concerns you have, please consult with your healthcare team. The staff at Everything Cancer podcast will not be answering individual health questions. Thank you, and thank you for being here. Hi, this is Jill, your host for the Everything Cancer podcast. Welcome. This is going to be a short, sweet, but impactful episode, and I'm really excited to have you here. So grab your favorite beverage, sit down, and take a listen. What we're talking about tonight is keeping track of things in an easy way and an effective way. So you can keep track of things in your phone. You can grab a notebook. You can use a binder, or you can grab my book from Amazon, Cancer Journey Guide and Journals, Empowerment in Diagnosis, Treatment, and Beyond. And while it looks a bit on the thick side, it's because there's 20 different journals in here. That sounds like a lot, but what it does is actually keep you very well organized with all the moving pieces of the cancer journey. And this is important for any point of the cancer journey, whether being diagnosed, being on active treatment, having surgery, having maintenance treatment, and being on the journey, any other part of the journey. It's important to keep track of what you have going on, where you need to be, when you need to be there. And that data, that hard data, is so incredibly useful. So the first thing to keep track of are questions for your doctor. And when you think of them, put them in your phone or write them down in whatever you're using as your journal. After you write down the question for your doctor, leave space after that question so that you can write in their answer. Keep journaling from being intimidating or something you don't want to do. Keep your notes short and sweet. Keep them, jot them as long as you can understand them. That's what's important. And you don't want it to become a drag, because this really does make a big difference for you. So again, short and sweet. And the next thing that's really important to keep track of, and neither one of these is more important than the other, it shifts depending on what you have going on, are your symptoms. And a symptom means anything that feels different. If it feels different, it's a symptom. So write down when it starts, what seems to make it worse, what seems to make it better, what time of day it happens, and how long you have it going on. Also, err on the side of caution. Call about that symptom. Don't sit on it. Research shows that when you keep track of your symptoms and report them to your provider, you have a chance for better outcomes. You feel better because your symptoms are better managed, and you have a better relationship with your provider. All great reasons to do this. Anything that your doctor told you to call about right away, jot it down what's happening and call. If anybody gives you a hard time about making that phone call, tell them that you're advocating for yourself. That's all you have to say. I am calling to advocate for myself. That should take care of any kind of pushback you're getting on your call. But you are advocating for yourself, and it is important that you make that call. If you are too fatigued to call, you can get someone on your crew to call. It's better if it's someone that's already on your health record as being able to have health information shared with them for you. If you don't have anybody like that around, someone who is not listed can still call for you. They can say why they're calling. The person on the other end at the provider office will not be able to share information with your crew member that's calling for you. So your crew member cannot expect a dynamic, collaborative conversation because that would be possibly violating HIPAA. The provider can take the message of what you have going on, and the crew member can make sure that that provider, whoever's taking the call, is going to have someone call you back, or contact you through messaging on your chart, your electronic chart. Lab values are important to track. Find out the ones that your provider finds important for whatever stage you're in. They should be accessible in your electronic chart. Electronic chart, if you don't know how to access it, find out, because it's really helpful to you. Tumor markers are important to track as well. And so have a tab established for those in your phone or in wherever you're writing things down. Another thing to track are important conversations, whether that is with your insurance company, your HR department, your leave administrator, the billing entity for your healthcare system. Jot down what those conversations comprised of. Another very important thing to keep track of are your next steps. That's going to help you hold all of this together and help you not get lost. There's a lot of moving pieces to the cancer journey. If you write down your next steps, you can then cross it off when you actually do it, and you can go back and review it every few days or once a week. Make sure you're doing everything you need to be doing. And that next step can be calling to make a doctor's appointment, going to get lab work done, making sure you get something faxed to your leave administrator. Any next step, write it down, because it's hard to remember everything you need to do. And also, you can make it's a lot easier when you have it written out and you have a crew member that's good at taking care of some of these next steps that you can hand it off to them and then cross it off when they get it done, and also write their name next to it so that you can remember who did it for you in case you have any questions. Another thing to keep track of is important thoughts, things that are important to you. And believe it or not, that can actually impact your treatment decisions, symptom management decisions. And also, if you and a person who is with you on your journey have a difference of opinion on an approach or a decision, if you write down your thoughts as to why you want to make the choice you are, it's a lot easier to articulate them with that person, and also keep that conversation warm and compassionate, so that you both walk away with a mutual understanding and have the relationship maintaining one of trust. That's important in this. Try to enter your conversations with the intent to have a good outcome. In any case, writing down those thoughts also helps you think through things. And if you need to gather courage while you're talking with someone, you can glance down at those written thoughts too, whether they're in your phone or in your notebook or in this. The next thing is, if you are unhappy with how things are going with a particular provider and you just kind of have a funny feeling in your gut after each appointment with them, something just doesn't feel right to you, or it's blatant and you feel like you can't trust them, it's important to write down what's going on so that you can call somebody in that office and either ask to speak with that provider. But if you're not feeling quite brave enough to do that, talk with someone in that provider's office about what's happening and see if they can act as an intermediary to help you resolve it. But having those thoughts written down makes a big difference. I have found that typically those kinds of issues are resolved. Oftentimes that provider had no idea how they were coming across to you, and usually will go out of their way to rectify things. If that's not the case, having those thoughts written down about what bothered you and will help you in your conversations with future providers to let them know what kind of went off the rails with the other provider. And that will help keep a more trusting relationship, hopefully, with the next provider. Also, that will help you speak with your insurance company if you have them help you find a provider that's in the same specialty with as many years or near as many years of experience, or working with your navigator or site. Also, keep track of if you are attempting to have intimacy and things kind of go off the rails, or something hurts, or things aren't working the way you expect them to. Jot a note down as to what's happening. Also, make sure you get clearance beforehand, especially if you've had surgery, if you are immune suppressed, if your platelets are low, or if you're receiving radiation therapy. Get clearance first before you engage in anything that's penetrative, so you can avoid hurting yourself. But having those issues written down makes it a little bit easier to bring up something that might be a little bit embarrassing for you, because it's easier to articulate if it's written down, and also you can glance down to gather courage. The other thing that's really important to keep track of is if you receive financial assistance from any organization, you may need to reapply for that financial assistance every year. You can write down who you got it from, by how much, what you needed to do, what their contact information is, and then when you need to reapply for that. And then put that in your next steps if you do need to reapply. Keeping track of when people do things for you, like drive you to an appointment, drop off a meal, clean a room in your house. That will help you remember to send them a text and say thank you. And that really does help to kind of keep the love coming. No need to send thank you notes. You have a lot going on. But if you are of mind to sending a thank you note, you can cross it off when you do. So also gifts, actual physical gifts. It was great having you here. And I'm really looking forward to having you back when we have a guest back on the podcast. And I really appreciate you listening. And I hope this was helpful information to you. Take care. Bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Everything Cancer podcast. If you would like to show your support, there are links in the show notes to do so. The information in this podcast is not intended to be used for medical advice. For any healthcare concerns you may have, please consult with your own healthcare team. The staff here at Everything Cancer Podcast will not be answering individual healthcare questions. Thank you, take care, and we'll see you back for the next episode of Everything Cancer. Bye-bye.